We have just under 30 people, Sam. If you want to get started, I think we can go through this now. Welcome, everybody. As I said, we will have about 20 minutes to go through a PowerPoint presentation, which is general information and some specific details about the process that will be able to hopefully answer most of your questions. But we're going to leave a little over 30 minutes to go through specific questions that you post throughout the webinar as you think of them on flood and creek-related issues, building-related issues, parks and open space, the overall competition process, technical questions related to the Crowdbrite platform, and then any other general questions. So I will monitor the questions as they pop up on my computer throughout the process. And then again, we will answer those at the end. Samuel and Leslie will be able to answer most of your questions. There may be some we are not able to answer, but those we will post into the Crowdbrite platform and let you know about that. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everybody. I'm going to pass it on to Sam to go through the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for the webinar. This is Sam Asefa, Senior Urban Designer for the city, and I have Leslie Ellis, who's the Manager of the Comprehensive Planning Division. Leslie and I co-manage the civic area planning process, and we will be answering questions, and I'll be doing the presentation. So I'll start briefly to give you a broad background of the civic area planning to date. The civic area within the City of Boulder, it's located within the heart of the city, right just directly west of the downtown area. What you see marked in dashed red outline is the focus area for this ideas competition, but it's also the focus area for the planning process. This map shows kind of the general planning area, what is in purple from 17th Street to 9th Street, and just north of Canyon Boulevard and just south of Arapahoe Avenue. That's what is the general planning area for the civic area. Within that, you see a salmon-colored boundary between 14th and 9th Street. That is what we are calling it the more focused area, primarily because that's where the civic area and functions are located, and where about over 95% of the property within that area is publicly owned, it's city-owned. And for the competition, while the larger area is just as important, the primary focus area would be the area just I outlined between 14th and 9th Street. The actual civic area planning, which started about 6 months ago or about 8 months ago, is primarily to develop a comprehensive vision for that general area and to help guide decisions about the future of city facilities. Significant amount of city services are located within this area. So we want to determine what the future facilities function of those facilities ought to be. And we also have quite a number of parcels there that are possible for either open space park or other developments or other program ideas that could be developed for the future. And we also want to establish a cohesive urban design for that whole public area, specifically in the public realm, whether it's on the parks or the streets within that area. As I mentioned, this process actually started April of this year. We're about halfway in the planning process, which will take us to next August 2013 for an area plan to be adopted. The ideas competition is one of the pieces in this whole process that's going to help inform what types of uses and ideas should be considered as part of an adopted plan. So we're right at the start of the ideas competition, right in the middle. This builds on a very exciting and robust public process over the last several months that we've been gathering a lot of ideas and wish lists from the public in terms of what should be included within the civic area. We've done this both through traditional public workshops, but we are getting significant amount of input through online ideas collaboration engagement as well. So the inputs from that public process was synthesized into 7 key guiding principles for the planning of the civic area. Those guiding principles, as you've seen the design brief, which we'll talk about later, are kind of the guiding principles for the competition as well. They frame the issues and ideas that should be explored through the through the ideas competition. Now I'll talk more specifically about the focus area for the competition in terms of the site. As I mentioned earlier, the actual planning area goes all the way to 17th Street to the east, and portions of the Boulder High School, which is south of Arapahoe. That area, whatever is decided within the focus area, could also impact or influence what happens within that larger area. Specifically for the ideas competition, it would be important to think about, although the city-owned properties are the primary focus areas, that ideas that could spill out, specifically along Canyon, where we have significant amount of surface parking and underutilized properties, it would be important to think and suggest ideas what could actually be complementary to what could happen within the civic area. So it would be important to consider those as well. But as I mentioned earlier, the primary focus area between 14th and 9th has mostly civic facilities or city facilities. There are a number of buildings, as you can see, that almost all of them are one form or another city offices, but we also have a Museum of Contemporary Art here in the red, and what's soon to become a landmark Dushanbe Tea House, the atrium building on the corner, which is the city office. There are a few private lots on the southeast corner of the site, and then further to the west, the Boulder Public Library and the Senior Center on the west. And then City Hall, or the municipal building, is located up closer to Canyon. And then we have a couple of buildings and other city facilities that are called the Park Central and the New Britain building. What's important on this map is the red marked buildings are landmarked, which means they cannot be changed or relocated, but if there's any change, it will require significant landmark. It will trigger landmark regulation. It also includes the band shell, which is located in the park here. There's been ideas discussed whether or not that could be relocated. Technically, it can, as long as it meets the landmark requirements. But if people are considering those kinds of issues, there has to be a compelling idea that why that should be relocated. That it is open for discussion as part of an ideas competition to consider those. There is also a significant amount of natural resources, including trees, and most importantly, the Boulder Creek, which transverses the site just across and then up on the southeast. The Boulder Creek is the primary feature of the whole site. In fact, it is the core of Olmsted Jr.'s plan for the civic area almost a century ago. The other significant feature within the site, and which will have a major influence in terms of decisions, are the 100-year flood zones and what is known as the high hazard area within that 100-year flood zone. What you see in blue signifies the 100-year flood, which means within any given year there's a 1% chance that we'll have a significant 100-year flood. And then within that, what is pink shows if there's a flood, there's the speed and depth of it is such that it has significant life safety issues. And as a result, the city has regulations related to structures that are habitable. So there's restrictions on building any new habitable structures within that pink area of this competition focus area. So currently, we're dealing with a couple of buildings. I mentioned it's known as the Park Central building and the New Britain building. Those are located within the high hazard area. The city is looking at options whether to phase those buildings out of this area, whether within the civic area, somewhere within the site, or somewhere within the downtown. But the most important thing to note is that those buildings cannot rehab or renovation of those buildings is restricted as a result of their location within the high hazard area. You can only have a cost of renovation that is less than 50% of the value of the building. So ideas to explore through this process is if you were to remove those buildings, to find, they're about 35,000 square feet, to find some other location within this area, or to propose any other ideas where they could be located, and then consider what that area could become. A lot of open space or open structures are allowed within the high hazard area. The flood issues are primarily not about flood that could stay there for significant amounts of time. It's mostly, in fact, entirely about flash flood that could come within a very short notice, and ideas about people, evacuation of people quickly from the site. There's ideas about landscaping or any other design that could help enhance safety through wayfinding or evacuation, making evacuation easier, is some of the ideas that we want to explore. Of course, buildings built within that area or even parks have to consider high maintenance costs from occasional flood. Within the civic area, the focus area, there is, even though it's mostly considered as a park, there is significant amount of parking, about 600 surface parking spaces. We want to explore ideas for consolidation and structured parking, specifically with parking that is in the high hazard area, because parked cars are actually significant hazard within the high hazard area. If you look at that whole area, there is about more than half of the area is either built structures or surface parking, and about 12 acres of that, by the way, the total site is approximately 27 acres. And out of that, the 12 acres is either the creek or park or some form of green space. As you consider this, and all of these are in your design brief and on the competition website, but there are several areas we're beginning to look at what is possible in terms of for new program ideas. Within the blue area, within the 100-year flood zone, habitable structures are allowed within certain restrictions related to flood, that they are allowed. So what you see in solid red lines that are surrounded around the eastern part of the site, and then the western and a little bit of east of the library, those are areas potentially are suited for some form of built structures. Within the city's zoning, within this area, you could build up to 2.7 FAR, meaning 2.5 times the site area. So and within a limit of 55-foot height. So generally a maximum 4, sometimes up to 5 floors, if you can fit it within a 55-foot height limit, you can build that much structure. So within that 2.7 floor area ratio, usually you don't get that much. It's usually average 2.4. So that's something to consider if you're considering some kind of square footage to fit that area. But it's also important to consider that various proposals for relocating or reconfiguring the both structures and surface parking that are located within the high hazard area. Now I'll talk briefly on the highlights of what the charge is for the competition, and these are all in the competition brief on the website. We're looking for two general areas in terms of proposals. Actually, there are two parts to the competition, and you're open to propose for one or both. So the one is a vision project. This is about long-term ideas for the next 20, 30, 40 years. What are the compelling ideas based on the guiding principles and some of the ideas that we heard from the public that would make sense in terms of a mix of uses that use public, private, art, or any other related uses that are identified within the project site, as well as the performance that is sought through the guiding principles. So proposals for a vision project. We want to also look at some short-term proposals for the next 2 years to 3 years that could be built as a catalyst or catalytic project as a near-term project. So you're open to propose, and those ones may focus mostly on the outdoor space. And there are some suggestions that are highlighted in the design brief that you could read. The competition itself is, as I mentioned earlier, it's one of many steps that we're using to develop options and alternatives in next spring. It is a high-level ideas competition. We're not looking for any detailed design solutions or resolving the flood problem or the space problem or program problem. It's mostly about what high-level ideas should be considered and what mix of uses are appropriate within that site and within that context. We're not going to select a single winning idea from either one of them. From the long-term or vision project. There'll be 4 different categories for that, and the 5th one would be the short-term or near-term project proposal that would be selected through this process. The ideas competition is not would not determine the final outcome of the plan that will be adopted next year in August, but it will be one in many processes that will inform what would be appropriate to consider as part of a final plan. And there isn't any major projects or building that's going to come out of this competition. It's important to know that. If there is a compelling idea that is proposed as a near-term project, the winning idea, or any ideas that are compelling among the proposals, the city will consider implementing those ideas in the next 2 to 3 years. In the 5 categories that I mentioned earlier in terms of the selection categories, the best ideas for great and transformative placemaking, best idea proposed for a creative mix of public-private uses on the site, any idea about environmental and flood-related solutions for the site, and the best idea that is proposed for civic functions and civic facilities on the site, and then a single idea for a catalyst or a near-term project. Those are the 5 categories that we're going to be going through as part of the selection process. There will be a jury of 7, both local and national jurors, who would make the final selection of these winning ideas. We will go through a first round of selection to shortlist about 15 to 20 ideas, and then we'll have 7 jurors who will go through a selection criteria to identify the best ideas in those 5 categories. Important dates to note in this process, we'll be holding a second webinar on January 27th, next week. The registration deadline, which you can find on the website, the bouldercivicarea.com website, is on January 7th. There is a $25 fee for students and $75 fee for professionals to register. The the registration, with one registration, you can submit proposals for both the Vision project and the Catalyst project. Proposals are due at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on January 14th, and the jury and award is scheduled on January 29th. So now Heidi will walk you through the Crowdbrite process, how you can engage within that online Crowdbrite website.
Hi, I'm going to go through this now real quick. You guys, thank you everyone for posting your questions. I've been tracking them, and we will definitely get to answering all of them as soon as we're done here. I've just got a few slides I'm going to go through really quick. So Crowdbrite is the interactive platform that we have some of the maps and the drawings. A recording of this webinar will also be posted up there, and I'll show you exactly where in a minute. But basically, it is a process that has already had a lot of community involvement so far. The community has helped to develop the design guidelines for the process. We have created 2 interactive canvases for information, ideas, questions, and comments, the long-term vision and the Catalytic Project. So those 2 canvases will be are online, and you can see those now at crowdbrite.com. Next slide, Sam, please. So Crowdbrite, again, it's an interactive platform that allows you to post ideas using virtual sticky notes. It allows you to mark up plans and drawings. We're using it in this case to review background information and to post questions about the competition and the process. Next. This is a screenshot of the welcome screen. You can scroll around. It shows you how to zoom in and out. It shows you how to post ideas and comment on other people's ideas, again, by reviewing the background materials over there on the right side of the canvas. We do ask that you download the latest version of either Google Chrome or Safari. It tends to work best in those 2 platforms. It does not work as well in Firefox and or in Internet Explorer. So Google Chrome is a free download. We have buckets on the canvas to allow you to post questions related to general, flood, building program, or parks and open space. You will see the other questions that have been posted, and you can review the answers. And then here in the upper left-hand corner of the canvas is where the recordings of the webinars will be, so you can review those as well as you go through the process. The platform is very easy to use. It's very user-friendly. You can, after logging in at crowdbrite.com, you basically just go in, and in the left-hand corner there is a little yellow sticky note. You can change the color according to the legend. You can add images, video links, upload ideas, post comments on other people's ideas. It's a very interactive platform in Canvas. You can also directly from the canvas invite other people to participate and comment on ideas as well. This is the instructions for the process. So again, all this text is on the welcome message as well as on the canvases. So you can refer back to it if you have any questions. And to basically to get into the platform, you go to crowdbrite.com. It's free to create an account and log in. Boulder is a featured project, so it will show up right at the top of the home page there on crowdbrite.com. You can download the user guide for more information and questions. We also have an iPad app, which is free to download in case you want to use it on your iPad or your mobile phone. And it'll automatically send you emails. If you post an idea or someone comments on your idea, you'll get an email about that to let you know that people are looking and commenting on your ideas. So that's just a little bit about Crowdbrite and the platform that we're using. I'm going to turn it over now back to Sam and Leslie, who are going to answer some of the questions. So we have, I didn't see any specific, oh, well, while I was talking, about eight more questions came in. So let me go ahead and I'm going to start with Sam. Instead of going in this order, I'm going to start with a question that came up that a number of people had, more than one person asked. If you had DWE or SketchUp models and things, you know, base drawings, either in DWG format, 3D format, SketchUp format, of the site. And then another related question to that was ownership parcel shape files. Who owns what, and do you have that information?
So to answer the first question in terms of DWG or SketchUp, we don't have a three-dimensional base. There is, but we have information that could be translated into DWG. We can get shape files, GIS shape files available for download if anyone is interested, and we could post that on the competition website. It will have general information, parcel lines in terms of ownership lines, as well as the buildings and building information in general. Just to let you know, there are no buildings more than, I believe, 2 stories, 3 stories, one the highest. So in the competition itself, it's important to note that we're not looking for any 3-dimension responses for the ideas competition. You're welcome to propose those, but the primary requirement is at a site plan level to propose ideas in site plan in terms of the requirements. But we will have shaped files that could be translated into DWG. But I also encourage you to look at the website. There is quite a wealth of information from landmark buildings, ownership map, natural features, building footprints. All of them are available in PDF formats to scale, but we could post electronic files that you could download as well.
Another question related to the SketchUp. Bobby mentioned that the library is available on SketchUp's 3D library, and then someone else would like to have the DWG and GIS files posted as soon as you can. Will that be on the website, Sam?
Yes, we can post that on the website. This will be shape files, but it will be, we'll try to post it as soon as we can in the next couple of days.
Okay. The other questions are, did you answer the question, sorry, about ownership parcel shape files? Will that also be posted then on the website?
So the shape files include parcel ownership as well, yeah.
Okay, okay. Another question, this one is related to buildings, is if the city offices are relocated, is there a need for additional office or user space?
There is no need for additional office space. There is about 5,000 square feet of space that the city is leasing elsewhere. I think for the purposes of the ideas competition, it's important to focus, and this is in the design brief, there's anywhere from about 50 to 80,000 square foot of office space that could be reconfigured, consolidated within the site. The important ones to note are the ones I mentioned earlier, Park Central and New Britain building. Combined, they make up about 35,000 square feet. And the Atrium building, which is located on the north east of 13th Street and Canyon, that one is, I believe, about 5,000 square feet. All of this information is on site. So I think at a high level, if you relocate the 2 buildings that are total of 35,000 square feet, it'll be important to note where those are. And then if you consolidate a few of the city offices, anywhere between 50 to 80,000 square feet is a good number to consider.
Okay. Another buildings, a couple of buildings related questions are, sorry, I'm having to scroll up and down in here. Okay, can the privately owned property along Arapahoe between 13th and 14th be included in a design entry?
So we don't have any plans to include that as part of this plan, but as an idea, yes, you could propose ideas that those could be used, and it would be good to explain what the process would be for that. But at a high level, as an idea, that is open to consideration. We don't have any plans at this point to look at the private properties, but as a proposing ideas, yes, it is open for to consider as part of this process.
Another question related to buildings is, should a major new building not be included in any entry?
I'm sorry, say that again?
So then, should a major new building not be included in any entry?
No, you're very open to propose any major new building within the buildable areas that I explained earlier, which is within the 100-year flood zone. Those are open for consideration for major or renovation. So within, see if I can get to that map. So this map, which is included in the design brief, outlines areas for consideration. So in any of those areas, you can propose any number of major buildings or a mix of major buildings.
Okay. We have a number of questions. This is in the general category. A number of people are saying, due to the time frame being so short for submitting information, the fact that it is over the holidays, a number of questions have been asked. Again, about number one, when will everything be posted? Please post the site plan digitally so that the folks don't have to redraw the site plan. And then related to that, the posting of this PowerPoint presentation and the slides, people want to find out how to get a copy of the PowerPoint.
We can post the PowerPoints tomorrow. We'll try to post the shaped files by tomorrow as well. So I would encourage you to look at the website, and on a daily basis we have new information that we post. We post on a daily basis.
Okay.
I just want to add. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
A couple other tips for the firms that are listening. We are encouraging multidisciplinary teams to submit. However, the submittal requirement is only for one panel of design, the 36 by 48 inch panel, and the 10 slides to explain the submittal. So this may not be the same level of effort required in a design competition that results in a final built building at the end of the competition. So the effort for the entries can be proportionate to the requirements that we're looking for.
A couple other building questions. The city zoning map shows a max height of 3 stories at the atrium building site. You mentioned that buildings could go higher, 55 feet. Can you clarify?
Sure. So the city has a height restriction of 55 feet height. Within that, depending on what you're proposing, you can have a single building at 55-foot height, or up to 5 floors, because that's the maximum you can actually fit within that envelope. So we are in the downtown zoning area. generally about 2.7 FAR. There is a portion of the site that is what's called the downtown 1, opposed to downtown 5. That one has lesser floor area limitations, but for the purposes of this competition, we're considering the maximum floor area ratio to work with as an idea. So 55-foot height limit. Within that, from 1 to 5 floors of building floors are allowed to consider.
Okay. The other building-related question is the band shell actively used?
So the band shell used to be actively used. It's less programmed than it used to be in the past. And through this public process, we've had a lot of feedback in terms of, ranging from, can you relocate it where it could function best, to ideas about programming ideas, and that's ideas that we want to hear. But currently, it's not as well used as it used to be. It's programmed very rarely. So that's something to consider in terms of programming.
Another building-ish related question is, are parking garages possible? Can we relocate the surface parking to a garage, specifically the library parking?
Yes, it is. You can consider structured parking where it is within the general areas that are outlined as areas where buildable areas. So, for example, within the library area, there are about 300 parking spaces. So if you remove those, you should show somewhere within the buildable area where those structured parking should be located. If you go into a more detailed design, again, we're not looking for a detailed design. There are certain restrictions related to, ramps to underground parking garage, which would be very difficult to do within a flood hazard area. But within the buildable areas, you can consider structured parking as a way to consolidate the removal of surface parking.
I'm going to go into a little bit more into the competition-related questions now. We have a number of people who are asking, for example, when you say panel, do you actually want something printed? Other people are asking, can they submit it electronically? Can we submit digital animation? Does it have to be a printed panel? Can you clarify all of those?
Sure, I'll clarify, but I want to say that all of those detailed descriptions are in the design brief, which is on the website. It's very specifically detailed. And it also includes a PowerPoint template for the 10 slides, 9 to 10 slides that are required. But the submittals are electronic, 36 by 48 format, and PDF, 5 megabytes or less. And again, I would encourage you to look at the brief. The submittals have to be anonymous. You cannot put your logo or your firm name or your name on the board, and there are specific directions on the brief. And one of the earlier criteria for the selection process is meeting those requirements. So that could disqualify you if you put your logo or your firm name on the board. But there's also a requirement that you give a name for your project. So we're going to identify your submittal by the name of the project, not by the name of the individual or the firm.
Is there a limit on the number of people, and do they each need to register separately? I'm not sure if that's related to Crowdbrite, but to register in Crowdbrite, yeah, each individual person needs to register themselves in Crowdbrite to access the platform. As far as competition, I'll let Sam answer that. And then related to your answer a minute ago, so the board is not physical, correct?
It's not physical. It's just the size of the format to be at a 36 by 48, and there are specific requirements in terms of border areas, but it's all electronic. In terms of submittal for the competition, we're actually encouraging multidisciplinary firms and a multiple group of people can submit as a single group for any one of the two proposals, the Vision Project and the Catalytic Project.
Okay. We had two questions, and I'm not sure, Sam, if you will be able to answer these, but one question, and again, this is sort of related to the process, is would the city consider changing the submittal deadline to February 14th?
That answer is no. Unfortunately, the only change that we could make, we made for January 14th. And I want to emphasize again, the level of effort that we're looking for is no more than a 2 to 3 day charrette at the most. And that's why we limited it to the size and the submittal. And what we're imagining is a very kind of high-level effort since we released the competition on the 10th. But unfortunately, the time is fixed in terms of the submittal.
And then has the city considered collaborating with SketchUp to obtain models of existing buildings?
And no, we have not for this process. Again, we would consider that down the road. Again, we're not interested in the three-dimensional aspect of the proposal at this level. We really want to look at options for the right mix of uses at a site plan level, and not at a three-dimensional level. I mean, you can describe or give examples from other places, and instead of doing illustrations or spending time to create three-dimensional illustrations, you could include within that board, within the site plan, similar ideas from other places, photographs or images. We're certainly not looking for creating significant amount of work with three-dimensional illustrations.
Related to that, Sam, in addition to the required slides, are we allowed to submit a video animation?
It wouldn't be a criteria for, it wouldn't affect the selection criteria or in terms of the amount of points that you get. You're welcome to submit video animation, but it will have no effect on, for lack of a better word, giving you extra credit, because that wasn't what we put out as the required submittal.
Okay.
And if you want to propose, a quick SketchUp massing with your site plan and insert that either on the slide, you're welcome to do that as well, in addition to any additional submittals. And that brief also describes within the slides how much, I think for each one there's 2 to 4 extra slides you're allowed to propose. So use that at your discretion in terms of what you would include within those extra slides.
And then when you 5 megabytes for 10 slides is pretty low, one person is noting. Would you consider raising that limit, or do you really want to stick to that?
That would be the Crowdbrite limitation. So I think maybe Darren or you can answer that. That's the submittals go to Crowdbrite. I'm not sure if you're able to receive more than 5 megabytes.
So right now we're accepting one panel and a PowerPoint under 5 megabytes. If it can be embedded in a PowerPoint and still under 5 megabytes, then sure.
No,
yeah,
I believe it's 5 megabytes for each.
Each slide.
I believe so. Is Darren? specified on the submittal requirements.
It's 5 megabytes for the entire PowerPoint show and 5 megabytes for the board, and it's pretty standard across other design competitions.
Yeah, so it's a total of 10 megabytes for each project proposal.
Okay, we have a few more specific questions related to buildings and stuff. One is, will the high school be able to accommodate project program proposed to occupy the field and parking areas, or will the school move?
I'm not sure which school are you talking about?
I'm reading the question to you as it was written.
Oh.
The high school?
So the high school, yeah, the high school is not part of the scope of either this competition or the civic area planning. The high school, city has no jurisdiction about the high school, and we don't know if they have a plan to relocate or not, and we're not making any assumptions or considerations about the high school.
Okay. Is the vehicle the primary transportation to and from the site, or what type of transit systems feed this site?
So that's a good question. There is currently a bus system on Broadway and Canyon. The regional bus, the regional transit system is located right on 14th and Canyon. There's a bus station right there that takes you to Denver and most locations within Denver, within the area. We are encouraging, and RTD is looking at, and the city is looking at significant improvements for bus facilities, specifically along 14th Street. And we are encouraging ideas about alternative modes, improvements to Canyon Boulevard in terms of its multimodal function, ideas about dedicated bike lanes, for example, or a combination of transit bus / ped bike access along Canyon. Canyon was looked at as a key entry point to this area, and as a result, we have about 130-foot right-of-way that could be considered as a significant both urban design as well as connections improvement. It's also important to look at mid-block kind of east-west connections for bike ped. There are some facilities already there in existence, and there is also a map in the resource on the website that shows you all the ped, bike, trail, and multimodal transportation connection that exists within the site.
Okay. Another question is, do you have the Sanborn fire insurance map and the Sanborn map that was discussed in the history section of the materials?
We can look into that and post that. Currently, it's not posted on the site.
And then related to posting, we're hoping to have everything posted tomorrow?
We are going to try and post everything tomorrow, yes.
Another competition-related question. If we are submitting in both the catalytic and vision categories per the registration page, do we submit two separate packages or just one?
You can just submit one package, but each one should follow the specific requirements stated in the design and the competition brief. There's slightly different requirements for scale and drawing and the slides for each of the two submittals.
Okay. Related to back to the transportation, could the current bus transit stops and routes be posted on the website as well, please?
I believe
do you have maybe a link to a transit website that would answer that question?
We can clarify that. I believe that is included in the area transit map. That's part of the resource map on the website.
Okay.
But we'll look into that and try to post that separately if appropriate.
So So the final couple of questions that have come through that despite the fact that there's at least one user who has read the design brief but is still asking for clarification about more what you would like to see in the PowerPoint presentation. So her question is, can you talk more about what you want in the PowerPoint presentation?
So what we asked on the PowerPoint presentation is, in addition to the submittal for the large board, so your primary idea, we want you to highlight where the selection criteria, there is a selection criteria identified in the design brief. It's to help you further articulate how your proposal meets the objectives of those selection criteria. And it's described for each of the slides. If you look at the heading, it describes exactly what we're looking for.
The next question is the senior center city-owned, and can it be relocated?
So yes, it is city-owned, and through this competition, yes, you're open to explore ideas for either relocation or redeveloping that whole area. That could also include the senior center. And that building is about 16,000 square feet.
Where is the template for the PowerPoint, Sam, so that helps people find that information and clarify that?
It is in the website. It's located as I have to pull it out to show you, or if Darren is there, he could explain exactly where those are included as well. So if you go to the design brief, where the slide descriptions are, you can click and it takes you to a downloadable PowerPoint template.
So from bouldercivicarea.com?
Yeah, for each of the projects in the design brief, starting in page 2, the requirements for the slides are there, and at the end, here, I'll pull the page. Won't let me. So what is on your screen is the idea design brief. This is downloadable, and if you scroll down to each of the vision project, I could go through that. Your submittal requirements. Sorry.
This is Darren. Just a reminder that, it's a fairly simple application. The PowerPoint slideshow is very specific, and you just walk through and answer the questions in the PowerPoint, and they directly track with the evaluation criteria. And secondly, there are some notes for each slide in the PowerPoint that provide additional information and instructions. And you can also include some additional text to describe your project or ideas that relate to the slide, up to 200 words per slide. So it's fairly straightforward. You just need to complete each of the slides to support your boards, and you can provide additional text information as well.
The next question is, or Sam, are you ready to move on, or did you want to say something else about that?
Sure. No, that's it. But it is. When you log into the website, you could actually see where the downloadable slide templates are.
The next question is, can parking garages be in the high hazard zone if the ground floor is open? No parking on the ground.
So there's no there's restriction for any structure that is habitable or any new parking in the high hazard, whether it's structured or surface. That
take a look at the questions really quick. We have a couple people who have asked a number of questions, and I believe that we have answered most of them. But let me just take a quick look real quick back. There's been, I want to say, about 50 or so different questions answered, some of them duplicative. So we hopefully answered all the questions again about the shape files and sketches, etc., maps, background information that's not already uploaded to the website will be uploaded tomorrow. The time frame for the competition, unfortunately, will not change, but all the information is, after logging into crowdbrite.com, you can also find it on the Boulder canvases. One canvas is for the Vision Project, one canvas is for the Catalytic Project. Here's a question I'm not sure we answered. What is the limit of members allowed for each team? Does each team member pay a registration fee, or does one team equal one fee?
One team equals one fee, and there's no limits for as a team for each submittal. We actually encourage to have multidisciplinary teams. And one fee for both countries.
Yeah, this is Darren. With that in mind, one person asked if we could distribute the list of names that have signed up for the webinar so they could team up. And I don't know if I have an answer for that one, Sam.
If they can team up? Which, I'm sorry.
Someone had asked for the attendee list, but I shared the attendee list with that person who asked, Darren. I shared it with her so she could see who was on it. But no, we did not ask if people who are logging into the various webinars today and next week are interested in having their information shared with anyone else. So you can see the names, but we won't be able to share people's individual contact information. Sorry, there was one clarification. Let me post back to the parcel line property question. It says not just the parcel lines, but also what the property use is. Buildings with their names as a shapefile field. Shapefiles that include the actual boundaries of the areas. Is that something, Sam, that will be done?
Sure. Yeah, we can have the ones with building names and. We could add the land use. So when you click the shape files, when you click on the parcel, it tells you exactly what the land use is. But again, for that information, you could also have the land use and zoning map that is included on the website. And it's also on the Crowdbrite site. It tells you all the land uses. But the shape file will but it's not going to be up to date. If a building in the last 3 months or 6 months changed its use, the shape file will not be accurate in terms of who the owner or the use is.
Okay. What type of catalytic projects are you looking for? More landscape and less building focused?
So if you read the guiding of the competition brief, it gives about 5 or 6 specific general ideas, but you're open to propose. And it limits it to about $300,000 in terms of the cost. So that limits it to most likely what we're looking for is ideas for signage or ideas for making the park or the area more cohesive with certain art elements. There's a farmer's market located on 13th Street. There are ideas, because that's one of the critical or important part of this whole different program ideas there, ideas to propose how that farmer's market could actually be improved in terms of its function, layouts, can it extend in one direction or another. So it's really about the public realm or the outdoor space because of the size and the scope and the limitation. But there are about 5, 6 ideas listed in the design brief that specify or give example of what those are.
Related to the farmers market, there was a question earlier that I am getting back to now. It says, is there an existing farmers market, and can you explain the significance or purpose of what I've seen called the farmer's ditch?
Okay, the farmers market has nothing to do with the farmer's ditch. So the farmers market, there is a farmers market that is programmed a couple of times a week during the summer. It is a very active part of the area. It's been around for now 25 years. And it is through this public process, it's been identified as one of the most important uses to either reconfigure, expand, or think broader if it could be expanded year-round. Could it be both outdoor and indoor? Could it be a combination of farmers market, marketplace? That's kind of one idea to consider. The farmer's ditch is a series of ditch systems that are throughout the city that are owned by, not by the city, but various entities. It supplies water to farms downstream, and they're strictly regulated in terms of restrictions on water or anything you could do on the ditch itself. There could be improvements, but there are strict regulations, and ditch companies, there are multiple ditch companies who own different ditches in the city. So the farmer's ditch is owned by a ditch company. So the key requirement there is that they don't lose any reconstruction or reconfiguration does not reduce the amount of water that the ditch provides to the farm downstream.
This is related to the shapefiles question. Do the land use shapefiles include the surrounding building uses?
You mean outside of the focus area? Yes. Well, whatever within the area. Yes, it does. It does.
Okay. And then the next couple questions are just related to the next webinar. A number of people have asked if the next webinar is new information or the same as this. I think they're wondering if they need to log in again next week, or if you'll be going through the same things, or if it will be different.
So there will be no new information at the next webinar. It will be, we may post, we'll make this PowerPoint available online. We'll dedicate most of that time for new questions and less on presenting the ideas. We'll have a general presentation, general overview, but there will not be any new information.
Okay. The next webinar, it's not January 27th. It actually is December 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is December 27th. Yeah.
It's next week.
Sorry.
Someone would like to point out that there is a building east of the transit center that is not shown, and that may affect what is proposed.
There is no transit center in the study area. I'm not sure which one.
It says, I just want to point out that there is a building east of the transit center that is not shown, and this may affect what is proposed. Let me unmute Deborah so she can specifically ask you that question.
Yeah, I just put up
Deborah, can you clarify that question, please?
Yeah, this related to what was just said about considering what happens.
Could you speak up, Deborah? It's really hard to hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay. My comment has to do with what was just said about how areas outside of the program or the planning area can be considered. So what I noticed... Pardon?
You're a little choppy, so I couldn't hear it.
Okay, how about if I type it? Can I type my statement?
I hear you better now.
Okay. So if I'm correct, you just said that we can consider what is outside of the planning area. Is that correct?
So, so let me be clear. Can you see the two outlines within the map? Is the map visible?
Yes, I see it.
Yeah. So the two lines signify the outer line, the lighter orange. That's kind of, and it's not a very strict line. It's the general planning focus area. It's put that way so that any ideas that are proposed and their impact on Canyon Boulevard primarily and south, and maybe the sidewalks and the there's a civic pad. It's called the civic pad next to St. Julian. Those are all inside of that planning area. So anything within that area you're open to consider. But again, the primary focus of the competition is within between 14th and 9th and Canyon and Arapahoe. The transit area, I believe that you're talking about is the RTD between 15th and 14th.
That's correct.
Yeah, so the one along Walnut, yeah, there is a new building that's built, you're correct, on 15th and Walnut. Technically, that's outside of our planning area.
Okay. Okay, that's clear now.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So just to be clear, the areas just along Canyon Boulevard are the key ones if there is any possibility, because there's a lot of vacant lots. The neighborhood, what's called Goss Grove, that you see on the southeast corner, that is not going to change. It's a landmarked neighborhood, so considerations in that area would not make sense. And that, the vacant or surface parking along Canyon, you can propose ideas if it is, compelling idea as part of your primary proposal for the primary focus area for the competition.
Sam, so there are two people who have raised their hand, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute them in case they haven't. They have both posted questions in the chat window, but or in the question window. So I'm going to just unmute Michael here real quick and see if he has any specific questions that maybe have not been answered yet. And then otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We have one or two more questions to answer, and then we'll get going on this. But Michael, I just unmuted you, so if you have a question that you would still like to ask, you can ask it now. Michael Albert. No? Okay, I'm going to remute Michael, and no one else has answered. There's one other question that just came in. Can parking areas in the high hazard be regraded? In other words, are we able to resurface them with different elevations if we do not lose parking, or would that be considered new parking?
The number of parking that are there, you can regrade, and you cannot add any new additional parking spaces. So you can regrade, restrict, and the same number, but the regulations restrict no additional new parking within that area. And regrading will have other implications as well in terms of what happens downstream or not, but you're very much welcome to propose ideas about regrading as it relates to improving the flood function or any other, outdoor open space ideas that could enhance the area. But you're pretty much open to do that. But the parking cannot be more than what is there now.
Okay. And then a number of people have said they appreciate your time today, and they thank you, Sam. So I'm going to just redirect everyone again to the main website where there is a lot of information, the design brief, which will give you a lot of detailed information about the competition and the process for submitting your proposals, as well as the Crowdbrite.com website to register for your free account, to go in and look at the project site on the interactive canvases and get more information. There are a number of questions that have already been proposed and answered on there. And then that is also where the copy of this webinar will be located, a video link to that, to this recording of the webinar, which we will also post tomorrow, in addition to the files and the other background information that people have asked for will also be uploaded. That will be to the bouldercivicarea.com website. So Sam, Leslie, any other final question, follow-up type things that you can think of that you wanted to express to everyone before we wrap up?
No, all I want to say is we're really excited that a number of people are interested in this. It is the highest planning priority for the City of Boulder, for the City Council. It's been for the last couple of years. Finally, we're able to launch it this year. And it has been a very exciting process, one of the largest involvements in public process to date for a planning, and we're very excited to look at very out-of-the-box ideas. This is once in a 50-year opportunity to really shape what this place could be for the next 50 years, and I want to emphasize that. And then the other is, I know the time seems and is short, but we're really not looking for significant production in terms of materials. I think we're looking for great ideas that could be generated in an intense two-day, maybe three-day charrette. We're really looking for what types of mix of uses would make sense from the perspectives of transforming this area over the next several years as one of the greatest civic places with mix of uses and great public place. So I hope you have some fun doing it as well, and I wish everybody a healthy and a happy holiday season, and have fun with the competition.
Great. Thank you, everyone, again for your time today, and we'll close the webinar now. And please go to crowdbrite.com and bouldercivicarea.com to find out more information. Thank you.